Good afternoon. I assume most of you are in Singapore, except for Lynn Roberts, who's actually tuning in from London. So, good morning, Lynn, once again, and good afternoon to each and every one of you who's tuning in from Singapore. Right, so my name is Sylvia. Allow me to actually share my screen. Yes? All right. Okay. I wonder how many of you have actually been, might have been a long day for some of you. You might be at work or working from home like I am, and you may have been tuning into a couple of talks. So allow me to try and summarize some of the information uh, with regards to this International Foundation program. Okay, so let me introduce myself and Lynn first. So I've actually been here at SIM for a long, long time, and I have always been in charge of the University of London program. And so it was actually our privilege about 7 or 8 years ago when London School of Economics told us that they were very keen to run the International Foundation program. And lo and behold, they actually appointed Lynn Roberts to be in charge of the program. And Lynn has been in charge of it ever since day one. So we are very proud of this program and what it has achieved. And I hope that this afternoon we can actually share a little bit more with you. So why would you consider University of London and why would you consider SIM? Because the combination of SIM and University of London is a fantastic one. And this year we're celebrating 35 years of partnership. We started in 1986. Yes, I was not here yet. All right, I was not at SIM at that time. But we started with only 40 students in a management degree. And in those days, we didn't appoint, LSE was not the lead college for the program yet. The LSE became the lead college. The concept of the lead or the academic leadership of the program started in around 1992. And over time, look at the second point. We actually have three colleges who are actually behind the programs we run at SIM. LSE for sure, UCL for masters, and Goldsmiths for computing at undergrad and postgraduate. And we are University of London's teaching center in the world. And I was just telling my colleague yesterday that, excuse me, we have been, ever since they started this concept of a teaching center, we've always been the biggest. So it's 35 years. We might have started with 40 students, and now we have over 5,000 students. At its peak, we actually had over 11,000 students. If you think of the schools in Singapore, some of the schools are not even 10,000 strong. But just University of London alone, we were at one stage over 11,000. Today, SIM has over 18,000 students in a variety of programs, out of which over 5,000 of these students, more than a quarter of these students, are actually University of London students. Now, why do people come to SIM? Because at the end of the program, or at the end of what they have completed, they want to go out and get a job and be employable. So our graduate employment survey results for the this is for the class of 2019, those who graduated in 2019, shows that 82.4% of all SIM graduates were employed within 6 months. And this is a statistic that we actually watch very closely, right? So we hope, in fact, we know if you're looking for a program, we know we have one for you. It's a matter of which program you or your child can do at SIM. Right, so let us go on to talk more about the University of London. And to do that, it is my privilege to actually invite Lynn Roberts to actually share more about the University of London and about the IFP program. Over to you, Lynn.
Hi, so good morning from London and good afternoon to everybody. I wish I could see you all, but we'll have to pretend that the audience is there for today. Thanks, Sylvia. I think the University of London, a lot of people don't know about the University of London, and it was first founded in 1836. And at that time, Oxford and Cambridge were the only two universities in the UK. So to give people more opportunity, to give women the chance to study, to open the doors to more people who were not privileged, the University of London was founded in 1836. And so it was the first university to award degrees regardless of race, creed, gender, political belief, because before you had to be rich or you had to be part of a particular political party to be able to even go to university, and most of all, you had to be male. So, you know, we really welcome this diversity way back in the early 19th century. Okay, so our roles at the University of London, we are the awarding body. Your certificate will be awarded by the University of London, and that certificate has the same equivalency as if you had studied in London. So if you're doing your International Foundation program, you can go on to a degree at SIM. You can also apply for other degrees. And I think most importantly, after you do your degree at SIM, you could do a master's anywhere in the world. So that certificate is equivalent to what is awarded in London on campus at the member universities. So you might know some of the member universities. There are 17 of them, and we'll go through that later. There's LSE and UCL, King's, and they all collaborate to be part of the University of London. So everything you'll learn is created by the University of London. So we appoint academics to write our study guides and our teacher guides, and we also have some live revision sessions with these academics who teach you how to study in a particular way that will make you successful at university. And then we have approved teaching centers, so they're called recognized teaching centers. And you know, our most important relationship is with SIM in Singapore, and they are, we would call our prized recognized teaching center for the quality of their teaching, the quality of their administrative staff, and how they support students. And you can see from that video, there's so many things to do, that student would be exhausted, but you know, he's got good support at SIM to get him through all the clubs and all the studies. So we approve these teaching centers. They go through a rigorous process. And you know, they're monitored on an annual basis, and they are allowed as such, they are our colleagues, to teach the syllabus that we send from London. So the materials come from London, but they're supported and augmented by the staff at SIM, and the exams are marked in London, and the results are sent back to you. Thanks. So the International Foundation Program is equivalent to A-level. So you might be familiar with A-level, you might be familiar with IB or BTEC and other qualifications, foundation programs. So it's equivalent to A-level. It's been benchmarked by King's College London, University of London, and is widely accepted throughout the UK for undergraduate study and of course at our teaching centers abroad. We introduced it 8 years ago now, and successful completion leads to a University of London Foundation certificate, which you'll see later in the presentation, a University of London award, and we have prizes for student achievement, etc. So we support the program as full as we can. Good morning, James. And we have here James Abdi, who's one of our course leaders on the IFP, who's just joined the call.
Hi, James.
So we like to support the students, do workshops for students, and are really interested in student progression. I think the program, the main advantage of the program is that you can do what you want with it. So if you and your parents are wondering where you're going to go next, whether you're going to stay in Singapore or whether you're going to go to the UK or Canada or New Zealand or Australia, you might consider the International Foundation Program to prepare you for those studies. So it's a taught program of study, which means that we send the materials from London. We like to think, and we are assured and benchmarked constantly through quality assurance, that we have high academic standards. You get the appropriate subject knowledge to be able to do well in your first year of studies at university. We like to provide you with real world examples, and maybe James can talk about that a little bit later, of how to apply your knowledge. So we're not expecting you just to memorize things, we're expecting you to look out in the world and look at what's happening with COVID, with everything else that's going on in the world, and be able to analyze it from different perspectives. And we really want you to engage with contemporary issues, because you are the students of the future. Education is changing, the world is changing. Those might be cliches, but it's true. And we really want you to be able to be prepared, to be able to adapt to different situations and have the skills to be able to do different things as you go through your educational journey. So the award and grading of the certificate, you will get a pass, merit, or distinction, and those are the grade boundaries there that you can see. Now, distinction is equivalent to an A at A level. So even if, some people, 70% in the UK is an A, is a distinction. And, that would be enough to get you into some of the best universities. You will also, on your certificate, get a numerical grade. So you'll have a pass, but you'll also have like a 47 or 48 merit, 65 distinction, 82 or 91. You will have the actual mark, so that you can apply to different universities and show. You will also have an aggregate mark, which means a total of the 4 courses you take. So that's like an American GPA. So if you wanted to go to America, you could work out your GPA as well. So we try to be really flexible in how we show the grades, so that students can use the IFP for different purposes and, to achieve different progression goals that they have. And that's what this certificate looks like, although I think it has a nice, does it have a stamp on it, Sylvia, when you do get it?
Yes, it is. There's some embossment that goes.
So there's some special things that go here, but we can't show them. But you get that. You will also get a full transcript with all your marks. So if you do maths, what mark you get in maths and stats, the course that James is in charge of, what you get for economics, what you get for social psychology, and what you might get for international relations. So you have individual courses as well.
All right. Thank you, Lynn. Hi, James. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, good afternoon for you, and good morning from London.
Thank you. Thank you for leading on the other briefing that started at 3 o'clock.
A pleasure.
Well, Lynn, the last time we met together with James was 17th of February for our Achievers event.
What an exciting day that was.
Yeah, exactly. That was yes, it was. And after that, my heart just went out to how well our IFP students had done. So I kind of used the script and summarized it and put it together and called it the honor roll for 2020.
Okay, I'm going to take a picture of that. Great.
Yes, because in a way, thank you so much for awarding a prize money to the 14 students who had distinction. And these are 14 out of 30 distinctions from last year. So already the 30 was a record. And to have 14 awarded prize money from the University of London, really thank you very much. And
our pleasure.
And also, when we broke it down a little bit more, we actually saw that 9 of them actually achieved distinctions in all their 5 papers. So that's 3 for social psychology, for international relations, for accounting and finance. I mean, in different papers, of course, all the different students. But I was really very pleased that 9 students achieved distinctions in all 5 papers, including the 2 half papers that James is in charge of, the mathematics and statistics. And I highlighted during that event, and I put it down here as well, that Edna is in fact, Edna, I was reminded later on that Edna actually came to us from NAFA. He didn't complete his diploma in music at NAFA, and now NAFA, in case you don't know, has been the new University of the Arts together with LaSalle in Singapore. Okay. So he didn't complete his diploma, but he came to us, and I remember meeting him on day 1, and he told me that he wanted to become an economist. But along the way, I suspect that he saw a lot of our IFP seniors going on to do law programs, and he decided to apply for law as well. So he's actually now registered with Bristol. And this afternoon, Mavis is with us. Mavis is actually studying with King's College London now, although she's not physically in London, she's in Singapore, but she was telling me that her classes tend to be from 11:30 p.m. at night, Singapore time.
Yeah, I know.
So she'll be coming on later on to share more. And Naveen is also the other graduate from IFP who's studying with King's College London. And all three received several offers. Naveen also topped the world in 2 papers, and Sing Ying topped the world for accounting. Although she didn't get a distinction, she still topped the world for the accounting and finance paper, and we want to applaud that achievement. So, and another thing that you and Maggie know about is that, you know, one of our another achievement is our record number of first class honors from the undergraduate programs, and we applaud this IFP diploma Tan Si Hong, who actually completed the computing and information systems program. And you've been to my office, which actually is behind this facade on the left, the UOL SIM Global Education Regional Center, which we opened. So we are very pleased that SIM is the regional center for the University of London in this part of the world, and nowhere in the world is there something similar. I mean, you do have, the university does have staff who are around the world. I think in Pakistan there's Syed, but you know, for physical location, I think we are the only ones, and we are very
Yes,
pleased.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
It
University
shows
of
how
London.
much, it shows how important the relationship is, I think.
And James and Lynn, we won't appear to see your face in this collage of photographs, but we use this as a backdrop to again talk about the academic achievements that our students have achieved for the year 2020. And the number of students who topped the world in the exams, the prizes that they were awarded, out of which, 14 came from the IFP, and the commendations that they were awarded from the university. It's just amazing. We just want to congratulate our students once again. Right. So just moving on to just the audience who are with us this afternoon. And, you know, the kind of students we want to take in for this IFP program. So traditionally after O-levels, what do students do? So traditionally after O-levels or year 10 or class 10, usually in Singapore, people either go to the junior college, they go to the Polytechnic, or they go to ITE, Institute of Technical Education. What we are saying is that you can actually come to the IFP. This is an alternative. Now, the IFP is a foundation program, and foundation programs around the world are primarily post O-level programs. However, I can share from my own family experience that, you know, a lot of kiasu Singaporeans, all right, scared to lose, keeping up with the Joneses, they use the foundation program from whichever country to actually beef up, improve their chances of getting into a good program. So sometimes A-level institutions or A-level graduates, like my niece, she wanted to get into a veterinary science program in Australia. So to increase her chances of getting in, because she didn't get an A for chemistry at A-level, she actually enrolled in a foundation program. And after doing the foundation, she did very well in the foundation. She got a good score. I think she was the valedictorian of a foundation. That improved her chances of getting into a good Australian university for vet science, which is where she is now. So the foundation program was not meant for A-level, or is not meant for A-level graduates, but we do have A-level graduates enrolling in foundation programs all over the world. So our program at SIM, we are not saying that it is not for A-level. We don't mind taking in A-level graduates, but the intent of the foundation program around the world is actually post O-level. It's a pre-university program for students to go into university. So if you look at this table once again, on the top for A-level, you know, most people do a 2-year A-level. You could do 3 years. Most people would do 3 years for Polytechnic, and ITE could take you 2 or 3 years. But what we are saying is, if you wish to do a foundation program, it will get you into university as well. It's a good pre-university program. Now, usually in the A levels programs in Singapore, you will need second language. I know I'm not good at my Chinese, right? So if a foundation program were relevant today, I would probably look at the foundation program to get into university. So after foundation, after our IFP, what would you do? You can go into year one of a SIM undergraduate program, or a foundation graduate or A-level graduate or IB diploma graduate can apply to overseas university. So if you add up the number of years that you take to do the IFP and then to go to university, and even in university, NUS for an honors program, it will take 4 years. NTU, I think it's much further from town, and maybe because of that, they try and lure students with 3-year undergraduate programs. Only selective programs are actually 4 years at NTU. SMU, 4 years, right? So depending on which university you go to, it could be 3 years or it could be 4 years. At SIM, most of our undergraduate programs, which are awarded by the overseas university, whether it's Buffalo, RMIT, London, Stirling, Birmingham, most of the programs, right, for a full university program are actually 3 years, right? Even for the American program we have at SIM, we cram the 4 years into 3 years. So the University of London is a 3 years undergraduate program. So if you do from O level, you do 1 year foundation, plus come into the University of London course, it would take you 4 years to get a degree. Whereas if a student were to do 2 years at A-level institution, let's say, for example, where my children went, they went to Anglo-Chinese, ACJC, that's 2 years. And then if they were to do a 4-year undergraduate at NUS, it would take 6 years. As opposed to doing 1 year IFP, 3 years University of London, or even RMIT at SIM, that would take you 4 years. But we are not just promoting shortcuts here.
No,
Right?
no.
Every child is unique. So it's not a matter of fast tracking. No, that's not it. Right? There are alternative routes now. Right?
Can I just say something now, Sylvia?
Please do. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's, when we talk to students, and James and I talk to a lot of students, some are very focused and know what they want. And, this quicker route is better for them because they're able to get into the law degree that they really want and move on and get on with their career or their master's degree or even their PhD. Some students go on to that, have plans for that. And I think it's not a shortcut, like you say, but, some people have to do national service. Some people have different family situations, different financial situations. Like for me personally, I know I couldn't afford to do so many years or whatever when I was growing up. So it's all about being available, different routes available to you depending on your strengths and depending on what you want to do. And we support you through everything, and everything is equally valid. And as Sylvia said, some students don't do as well in their A-level as they would have liked to. And even in the UK, we have some students who've done A-level who then do the IFP again and get into things like PPE, actuarial science, things that they really wanted to get into afterwards. So I think the program is not we're not trying to push the program on anyone. What we're trying to say is whoever needs it, whoever wants it, whoever has a clear direction in mind, it might be the program that's going to help you get to where you want to go.
Yes, definitely. So in a while, we'll be hearing from Mavis, and she is currently a student with King's College London. So what we do is when students come into the IFP, and if you look at this slide here, we actually spend a lot of time, and we have advice from Lynn Roberts, James Abday, and also our Deputy Director, Chris New, who's not with us this afternoon. We get their advice. To go to UK, they have to apply through UCAS. So our students do that, right? And we can ask Mavis later on which program she applied to, what offers she had, and then why she chose King's College London where she is now, right? Whereas 75% of our IFP graduates continue at SIM in our range of undergraduate programs. So here you can see whether they go into the equivalent of the first year called the Certificate of Higher Education in Social Sciences, or they go straight into the degree, whether it's in computing under Goldsmiths, University of London, or say in international relations, which is under LSE. Also, they have other options at SIM. We have the American program Buffalo, the Australian RMIT, or the Scottish program Stirling. Right. So these are the subjects we offer, and this is information which you can find from the website. So I'm not going to go into detail, except to say that pause for a moment. Okay, what do students do at A levels, for example? They don't do social psychology. They don't do international relations. Some students do, management of business and accounting. All right. So these are subjects that we offer. So, and you know what? Because we offer international relations, because we offer social psychology, we've had students pursue these for a degree. So we have one who transferred to Goldsmiths to do a psychology degree. And we have students, in fact, Mavis and Naveen, I believe that what their choice of degree today is partly because they did international relations. And we'll hear from Mavis later on. Right? So as with any pre-university program, what is important to us is, this range of things that they do in the program. There's reading, there's journals. We make sure that they do specific, they do journaling. There's coursework in terms of class tests, mock exams, quizzes, exercises, ad hoc group projects and presentations. And we can also ask Mavis, who can share with us later on as well. Now, I did say earlier that, it's a great partnership between SIM and University of London. When University of London first told us that, oh, Sylvia, we now have an online library. I said, oh, okay, we've been there, done that. We already have had an online library for a while at University of London. And it's true. So at SIM, we also have an online library as well as a physical. University of London, there is a physical, there's an online as well. In fact, our library is named after the late Dr. Tay Ing Soon. It's the SIM Tay Ing Soon Library. And some of you parents who are tuning in may know that Dr. Tay Ing Soon was a Minister of Education in the Singapore Parliament at one stage. He was very instrumental in appointing SIM to be the Open University for Singapore. And that evolved to SIM University, which was called SIM University, and then which today is now autonomous and reports to the Ministry of Education, is the Singapore University for Social Sciences. So that's our roots. And in fact, sometimes people think of me as having my office at Bras Basah because they think that SIM is related to SMU. And in a way we are, because, SMU, Singapore Management University, the management from Singapore Management University comes from SIM, Singapore Institute of Management. So I was also in a task force to actually study more of what the new university would be like back in 1992 and 1993. But later on, SMU started. It is not part of SIM now. And later on, SIM University and now SUSS started. Now, SUSS is not part of SIM. However, SUSS shares the same campus as SIM for the moment. Okay? So this slide about resources talks about resources from both SIM as well as University of London. Right, so here you also see another picture of Chris New, right, in a video conference session that we had on campus, and when Chris New was at SIM, and also James at Day in the flesh, conducting an economics workshop. And remember I say, students have the opportunity to apply overseas. So when James Brown from LSE, he's the recruitment officer at LSE, when he comes to Singapore, he will go to Hwa Chong Institute, he will go to ACS Independent, he will go to Raffles Institution or Raffles Junior College to recruit undergraduates for LSE. He will always come to SIM as well. And when he comes, he will recruit for LSE, both for undergrads as well as for postgraduate masters. Because every year we have quite a few now. Because of COVID, not as many go to LSE for masters, but pre-COVID, every year we have between 8 to 12 or 13 students who go to LSE for masters. So James will always make a visit, James Brown, all right? And in fact, this photograph was taken, well, his last visit was the same as James at Bay in January 2020, before COVID. So I'm going to quickly skip about the assessment and the awards because I told Mavis that we'll hand over to her to actually share in a short while. But just to talk about our different lecturers who have been with the program, actually many of them since day one. Right, so quickly skipping through the pictures of our students who have been in the program. So in the middle here, if you can see James at Bay seated with our students, and James again over here. I know we have one with Lynn, maybe later on. Now, profile of our students. Every year we find that about half the class are actually from Singapore. The other half may be from overseas, and here you can see the different nationalities who have come through. But overall at SIM, the bulk of our students are from Singapore. 80% are from Singapore. 20% are actually from overseas. Right? So here you see where our students have been. Now, 75% continue at SIM, 15% go overseas. Something is missing here, right? What about the other 10%? Okay, the other 10% actually go on for national service and then come back to SIM or go overseas or do another SIM program. So that makes up the balance of the 10%. Okay. Students who are overseas, including Mavis, who's with us this afternoon and about to share. So students who have got distinction, who have got merit, who have got pass, they have the opportunity to go overseas. And students who continue at SIM and complete the program at SIM with University of London, they've got second upper, they've got first class from different programs. And what did they do when they actually finished their IFP? They could have graduated with merit, they could have graduated with distinction, or simply just a pass. Okay, simply just a pass when they finished the IFP. But look where she was after another 3 years. Chen Ting Ting actually went on. I think she graduated in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, from SIM with a first class honors degree. Right. Okay. So just to show you the different activities that our students have done, and the video earlier on would have shown you a few more bits of information and photographs as well as what students can do. All right, I'm going to stop share, okay, and allow Mavis to take over and share more about her experience. Currently, she's a student with King's College London in BA International Relations, and she finished the IFP with us last year. Mavis, over to you, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good afternoon, lecturers, administrators, parents, and students. My name is Mavis, and I graduated from the IFP program year 2020. I'm currently a year 1 student studying international relations at King's College London. I'm actually in Singapore right now because of the coronavirus, but I will be flying over to London this coming September. I'll be talking about my experience at IFP as well as my view of the IFP program. My journey as an IFP student back then is certainly one full of ups and downs. Not going to lie, some of the modules can be rather challenging. There are 4 modules in total: social psychology, economics, math and statistics, and either international relations or accounting and finance. And my favorite module is social psychology. The lecturer itself, Miss Darrow, she's a very nice lady, even though she can be stern at times. And there's lots of group discussions in her class. So not to worry, you will be able to engage with other people and ultimately form friendships. Speaking about friends, like any schools, you will definitely meet all kinds of people from different backgrounds. I think the learning environment at IFP is certainly conducive. All of us have different goals and ambitions. I have friends who apply to University of Bristol for law, as well as those who choose to proceed on to further study in SIM. We help each other and give encouragement during difficult times, especially exam period. I would say that it is much more stressful for students who wish to apply to overseas universities because they do not just ask for an all pass in 4 modules. Like for me, King's expect me to get everything distinctions. And so you will definitely feel very pressurized to hit that conditional offer given to you. Despite that, I use that as a form of motivation for me to push myself to work hard and hit the target. So in a way, all of us work together for one common goal, which is to get good results and proceed on to university. And I think it's really very nice and encouraging to know that you are not in this alone. All your friends are facing this together with you. So I think that the IFP program really taught me many things and skills, such as learn to speak up in class and to be an independent learner. I was a very soft-spoken and shy girl, and so it was really hard for me to approach the teachers for any matters. But along the way, I feel that I've overcome that, and I would say that it's really important for you to approach the teachers when you don't understand something. The lecturers at IFP are very caring. They may place high expectations on you, but that's just because they really want you to do well and maximize your potential. I think IFP is a platform for you to be ready for university, especially now that I am in uni. I realize there's lots of independent studies. The lecturers are not going to spoon feed you or anything. And there is no such thing as model essays. And you're supposed to look up things by your own and be responsible for your own learning. And so in a way, I think that the IFP program really prepared you well for universities, as you will learn to be confident and step out of your comfort zone. It also taught me perseverance. It's a 1-year course, and so pretty fast paced. There will be times where you will feel like giving up. I definitely have cried because of my grades and the fear of not able to get into King's. But I did not give up and instead find out what's the problem and persevere on. I think it's important to learn to persevere on, as this is something that you will face in university as well. There's no way you can escape that. Even now, I'm still trying to get used to the pace of teaching in uni, as well as understanding the readings. The readings in university are harder and requires critical thinking. At least that's the case for King's. So my view of the IFP program is that it is really a stepping stone for you to continue on with further studies. The experiences you gain are valuable and unforgettable. And with that, I've come to the end of my sharing session. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mavis, for sharing. Yeah. Right. Just before we allow questions, allow me to just share screen again and just go through a little bit more, provide some information about the requirement. Now, to come into the program, it would seem as if, 4 O-levels shouldn't be too difficult, right? And some people might say that, it's only 4 O's. So University of London, actually, this is the guidelines. However, I think the students that we bring in, usually they have more than just the minimum of 4 O's. Remember, we also take in students from overseas, and many of them have more than the equivalent of O-levels. They actually have done the equivalent of A-levels in their home country before coming into the IFP. That is SIM's requirement, that for overseas students, we are a little bit more strict, right? So please check with us if you want to know a little bit more about equivalences and about the coming into the program. In terms of course fees, just the ballpark figure is about 17,000, right? There are fees that you pay to SIM, there's registration fees that you pay to University of London, and post-COVID, hopefully, post-COVID, when the exams are physical again, then there will be this admin charge. The exams are actually, for this year and last year, they are online. But pre-COVID, they were actually physical, and students have to go down to an exam center to sit for the exams. And the exams are actually managed by a subsidiary of the Ministry of Education, which is the RELC Examinations Bureau. Right. So what can you do today? Now, if you are interested in applying, please take note that we have different closing dates. We try and have different dates because we want to encourage candidates to apply early. So the next closing will actually be very shortly on the 1st of April. Our classes actually begin at the end of August. Now, if you are a parent or you are interested in the program, but you're not coming in this year, you're only coming in next year, please take note that next year, we want to resume having 2 intakes. So usually we have an intake in May, we have an intake in August. But for this year, we will only have 1 intake in August. Okay, and some information about application fees for our online application. Right, we have come to the end of the presentation now. Joanne, we'll be happy to take questions. But before that, or actually while you are gathering the questions, I won't say before that, while you are gathering the questions, can I invite Dr. James Abday to actually say a few words? Because James, you know, you are one of the key academics behind this program. And you know SIM so well because you visit us so often. Would you have anything to advise the audience here?
Yes, thank you, Sylvia. Indeed, testament to my many visits was I was appearing in many photos there, but it seems a long time since I've been on a plane. So I hope you are staying, everyone, safe and healthy. I'd like to thank Mavis for an excellent sharing there. And I don't think I really have much to add, but just to emphasize, as Mavis did, that the IFP was great for her in preparation for her undergraduate studies. And so I think the great thing academically about the IFP is that it's not sort of the end of the road as such. It's to provide a pathway to degree level studies, whether that's a UOL program at SIM, whether it's studying at King's, LSE, or at universities overseas. So now, while we appreciate that, while you're making up your mind to IFP or not, it's thinking ahead for undergraduate studies. And while you may not be entirely sure today what university options you're considering, the great thing about the IFP is that it will keep many doors open. And so you don't need to worry about your university choices now. And it may well be that during your IFP studies, by taking international relations, social psychology, economics, etc., that this ignites a passion in you for a particular disciplinary area. So, of course, when you get to the university decision making, it's of course what subjects to study, but also where to study, which university to attend. So when we designed the various modules, for myself, I wrote the statistics materials and the economics materials. I mean, all subject guide authors had in mind the preparation or laying the ground for undergraduate studies, such that although the level of difficulty for IFP is what we call level 3 and appropriate for pre-university study, the style of learning is to really give you a competitive edge for when you start your BSc degree.
All
Thanks,
right.
James.
Yeah. All right. Are there any questions? Joanne tells me that you have to type in the questions if you have any. I want to say hello to Yao, one of the candidates in the audience. Hi, Yao. Why? Lynn, anything to add?
I just think that you know, doing this program and will give you a lot of choices at the end of the year, and I think that's the thing we want to emphasize. And, you know, there's been so many slides and we've been talking so much, but it really will give you kind of like a pass or a passport, if you want to say, to doing different things. And you might not have made up your mind at this point. So during the year, and when you finish, you'll have a wide variety of progression opportunities.
Yes, indeed.
So you can stay in Singapore and do fantastic degree at SIM. You can go overseas. Like I say, a lot of people go to UK, but you can see other people have gone to other places, to New Zealand, to Switzerland, to Belgium, but students can also go to Canada. It's becoming a more popular choice, things like that. And it, you know, I think it gives a lot of opportunities.
Yes, indeed. I pause at this photograph because, you know, there are so many stories I can share. Allow me to share two. Jia Wei is someone who actually got into UK. He got into two programs, and one of the programs was actually Birkbeck because it's in central London, part of the University of London. The other school is somewhere further north. I forgot. It was a Russell Group University, whether it's I don't think it's Durham, but somewhere further north, all right? But his father wanted him to be in London, so that's why he wanted Birkbeck. But at the end of the day, he was asked to do his IELTS, and he didn't want to do his IELTS again. So he didn't go to UK. And in the end, he chose to apply to Auckland because his senior, Ribbon, he knew from SIM that our graduates had gone to Melbourne and Auckland. So he applied to where our seniors had gone to. So Auckland in New Zealand. So that's where he is now pursuing this BA in politics and IR, right? So that's one story. The other story is Karishma. And those of you who can see, she's in the top right corner, second from the right.
Amazing student.
Yes. Okay, it's a lovely story. So what happened was after her O-level, now if you look at her photograph carefully, you see the dots. Now what school uniform has dots? And it's actually green dots. St. Margaret's Secondary School. Okay, so she came from St. Margaret's, and her brother was at ACS Independent, younger brother. And so she came to us after her O-levels. Now, what happened was, after O-levels, she was posted to Millennium Institute, which is a 3-year A-level institution. But in the end, she came to SIM. In fact, she and her father came several times. In January, came for our open house, came back again, came for a public lecture. That's the one with Professor Yao, Dr. James that day. Professor Yao gave that public lecture that year, and from LSE Statistics Department. So Karishma and her father came for the talk as well. Now, during that 1 year of the IFP program, so what happened was she joined Millennium Institute after the posting. So from February that year, she actually was at Millennium Institute, February, March, April. And then our classes started in May. So she withdrew from Millennium and came to SIM. So May until the following year, she was in our IFP and she graduated. And when she graduated, she had a distinction. So only after she had the distinction did she decide to apply to UCAS to go to UK to study. So she didn't apply and she got her results in, usually it's June. So when she started applying, she applied to Warwick, Birmingham,
Bristol,
Nottingham, and Durham. All right, she applied for the LLB program and she was accepted in 4 except Durham. And Lynn, you were advising us that probably, you know, for the, what do you call it? The late applications, right?
Yeah, Durham was full.
Durham was full. And
yeah.
so that's why she was rejected from Durham. And Durham is also Russell Group. And all these other universities, I think they're all Russell Group as well. That's right. Yeah, all Russell Group. She applied to all these and got work. She was accepted. And then the dilemma was, where should she go? So in the end, she chose Nottingham. And so there she is. And
good student experience.
Yeah. Exactly. And when she started at Nottingham, her friends from St. Margaret's who had got into 2-year A-level programs were just about to start on their A-level exams, right? But she was already into university, right? So this is one example of how you know, she wasn't quite sure where she was headed, but she knew that, you know, she didn't really want a 3-year A-level program. And then she came here, and then she was in the end faster than anybody else, right? So I thought that's a lovely story. I can go on, but I think I'll stop here, right?
But I think you have all the destinations, but there's also, you know, there's a longer list of offers that students have.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yeah.
So like
Mavis?
Kirsten could have gone to the United States or to LSE.
That's right.
So yeah.
Ma-
So
Mavis?
making choices for yourself. I think that's the important thing. Not somebody else forcing choices on you.
And Mavis, can you share with us the offers that you received as well as rejections? Because it's not just, we don't just want to share the good news all the time. We want to be realistic and share the rejections as well.
Yeah, I applied to, sorry, give me one minute. King's College London, University of Nottingham, University of Birmingham, University of Newcastle, and I think it was Queen Mary, the last one, yeah. And I received offers from Newcastle and Nottingham. Yeah, but Queen Mary, I think like the reason they reject me is because they don't look at IFP or something like that. Yeah.
Well, they do look at it, but
They do.
maybe.
Wow, well done. All right. And
Yeah,
of course,
very well done.
of the offers made, you chose King's College London. Good
The
choice.
best one of the bunch.
And the highest ranking one.
The highest ranking one.
Okay. Right. There is a question here. It says, "Hi Mavis, I'm concerned about the studying environment for the IFP. Is it very lonely? Would it be hard to mingle around? You know, would it feel like you're fighting a battle on your own? Because this person felt that that was the case in her junior college or his junior college. I can't tell whether it's a female or male student. Yeah. Anything to share, Mavis?
I don't think that it's lonely, and I don't think that it's hard to mingle around if you mix with the correct crowd. Yeah, I think like it's just like other schools. There will definitely be students who, you know, they don't really place a huge emphasis on academics, and on the other hand, there will be students who really push themselves to get a distinction. So yeah, I think it depends on what you really want.
So in our IFP, did you feel a lot of pressure? You know, like sometimes people say in our secondary schools and A levels is very pressurizing. So what about you, Mavis? Did you feel how was it for you?
For me, it's a little bit of mixture. It's mostly because my parents, they do force me to, you know, study and get the results. That's one. But it's also because I think I enjoyed the modules. Yeah, like social psychology, international relations. You don't get to study all this for A levels. Yeah.
Yes, which is what I said earlier. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Any parting words, Lynn and James?
Well, I think it is a challenging program, but in a good way, because, you know, James teaches first year at LSE, first year courses, and, you know, maybe he'd like to say a few words on, like, you need to be prepared to go into that environment. So, you know, we try to make the courses enjoyable, relevant to the real world, and give you time to make friends and to study, but we also want to push you a little bit because we know what's coming next. James, any comment on that?
Indeed. Well, I mean, all of the subject guide authors have experience with university level teaching. So it really, just to reinforce that point about, it's not just that the IFP is not sort of a self-contained qualification, rather it's about laying the foundation for what's required in the first year of undergraduate studies. And I've taught at LSE for many years now. And often some students really struggle to adapt from high school level study to university level study. And for some, their first year undergraduate experience is very challenging. So the IFP does its best to prepare students for what comes next. And I think that's a major factor you should all consider in your decision-making process over qualifications, is that you've got to be forward-looking and make sure you're giving your best chance of success at university.
All right. So perhaps on that note, we can conclude this afternoon's presentation.
And
Parents,
Sylvia, we're also happy to answer any questions after. So sometimes during presentations, people, they might think of questions later, and if they send them to you, we're more than happy, James and I, to answer them personally.
all right. Thank you very much, Lynn and James. Okay. So on behalf of SIM, thank you very much for joining us on our SIM Open House this afternoon. Right? Have a good evening, everyone.